All right, so if I am sounding a tad bit out of breath right now, people, it's because I was like ripping and running around the crib a little bit, just a little bit before I started recording this episode. Just trying to straighten shit up, get things in order. But also because I had this, it was a new Monster Energy drink I had, and it really, I gotta be honest, man, it didn't have any sugar in it. And it was some type of watermelon flavor with a real Christmas festive type of can. It was red and green, and it reminded me of Christmas. And I had to get it because I couldn't settle for the orange can. I hate the fucking orange can, and they didn't have the standard, black and green can that I usually get at the corner store. So whatever. But I'm just saying, man, it was a really weird taste session, but I'm like, I need the energy. I don't have any coffee, and I haven't had a Monster all morning, all afternoon, so I'm like, I gotta settle. So if I'm all like zipping and running all over the place, people, and I get sidetracked a little easier than usual, y'all know what's the culprit. It's it's actually like it's a two-way street, people. It's both my fault and the Monster Energy drink. More so my fault because I didn't have to buy the shit. But however, man, it's something I've wanted to discuss really briefly. I don't want this to become like an hour-long episode, and I know every time I say that, I put my foot in my mouth and I end up doing the same shit that I'm trying to avoid. But who knows, man? I'm gonna try to keep this as fairly brief as I can, man. But it's something triggered me yesterday that I was actually really surprised by. And they told me, I said, you know what? I have the outline for this episode in the tuck for probably a couple months now, more than a couple months. And I said, it's time to get it off the ground, man. And what better time, than today, especially with what I saw yesterday, man. So let me not, waste any more time talking about what I saw yesterday that kind of brought me around to the whole idea of it. I'm not going to lie to y'all, people. They dropped the trailer yesterday for the remake, the sci-fi original remake of Slumber Party Massacre. Now, if I'm not mistaken, Slumber Party Massacre was released in like 1982 or something like that. Now, I remember not seeing all of the first one. And I remember trying to make it through. I think it was the second one where the guy's got a drill on his guitar and he looks like Alexis Arquette, and they're like these fever dream sequences. The third one is just pretty fucking forgettable in my opinion altogether. So I didn't waste any time with that. But I remember when I heard the news and saw that cheap ass corny poster for the new Slumber Party Massacre movie, I'm like, okay, this thing's got everything going against it. It's got the girls in the background ready to do battle with the killer, which is fine. I'm all for female empowerment and badass women on screen standing up to the killer. Halloween Kills is going to set a lot more of that shit in motion as far as horror movies go. But I'm like, it reeks of Black Christmas 2019, man. If y'all don't know how I feel about that movie, go early on. It'll be 2 years, October 4th, that I started this commentary. I think October 19th is when I did a review for Black Christmas, and I also did commentary for it. So if y'all don't believe how I feel about that movie and how terrible it is, y'all can check out the commentary, the review, whatever. So that was one thing. And then you've got this unknown actor playing this killer who looks just as cheesy as the girls do in the background. The tagline on the poster says, "You know the drill." And I'm like, not only is this poster garbage, but this is premiering on the Sci-Fi Channel. I said, oh no. Whatever hope I have is going down the drain, because the Sci-Fi Channel, they've got this movie coming out. They've got the Chucky series coming out. They've got the Day of the Dead series coming out. I'm like, I have not trusted the Sci-Fi Channel since the logo was original back in the day, man. I don't fucking tune in at all. And when they show a lot of horror movies on there, of course this October they're going to go crazy. But when they show a lot of horror movies on Sci-Fi, they chop it up. And it's just like, what the fuck was the point of? It's like, I say this all the time. It's like when BET shows Menace to Society or Boys in the Hood. Why would you even put that on there when the whole movie damn near is going to be edited? But whatever, man. I wasn't looking forward to it. So what I did was, a while back, I had, a little bit after they dropped that poster, I had went back and I watched the original Slumber Party Massacre movie. And strangely enough, man, I didn't think there was really too much wrong with it for an 80s slasher, a cheesy 80s slasher at that had, horny teenage girls at the center of everything, hoping to lose their virginity, or at least some of them were, if not all of them. The guy that played the serial killer was pretty convincing. I hadn't seen him in anything before. He had kind of like this emotionless thing going on, where as though he might as well have had a mask on, because if he didn't smirk or grin like in a real sinister way, he wasn't showing much emotion, even when he was killing these girls and these guys with this drill throughout the movie. But I remember when it was over, I was like, yo, it wasn't a bad slasher, man. I've seen way worse, and it could possibly hold up if I watch it a few more times and pick apart some things I didn't see the first time around. I know there's some really great shots in the movie where people are just passing by dead bodies and they don't see them. There's a scene where I think the maintenance lady who comes to the school to fix something, she's just in the dumpster while they've got like this crane shot of some kind, and the kids are just casually walking past the dumpster while the lady's dead body is there in there. And I think there's a scene where a girl opens up the refrigerator at the slumber party. There's a fucking dead body in there that she doesn't notice, and she just closes the shit casually like it's not even there. There's some really good setup shots in that movie. But let me tell y'all, man, they dropped the trailer yesterday, and I told myself, I said, man, I'm not doing a goddamn trailer reaction for no sci-fi original Slumber Party Massacre reboot. I'm not doing that. I'm not doing it, man. It's not going to be worth it because I already know what it's going to be. Yeah, it was a little selfish of me to do that because I wish y'all would have got my trailer reaction to that hands-on. But let me tell y'all, man, starts off cheesy. But one thing I can assure myself and assure people out there that felt the same way I did, if one thing good is going to come out of the sci-fi Slumber Party Massacre remake, it's going to be the kills, man. They look like they are going for some cool and nasty, vicious kills in this shit, man. At some point, the killer's got the drill to somebody's face, and it looks like their entire face or head is spinning around, wig piece and all. You get some impalings. You get an impaling through the door, through the black girl's hand. You get the guy getting the drill jammed into him when they cut away from the screen. Somebody gets the drill through their neck. It's a whole bunch of shit they've got going. And I remember posting it in the Cinemaniacs group, shout out to them, and on my regular Facebook page. I'm just like, yo, I surprisingly did not hate this trailer, man. So I'm actually looking forward to seeing what they do, at least with the kills. Now, if I get attached to the female characters throughout the movie, fine, because I'll feel something for them when they get killed, because that's inevitable. We know that there's going to be a crazy body count, and you can see that based on the trailer. There's somebody that's got their eyes gouged out, and I think it's a dead body just falling on top of this girl where all of this blood, Lamberto Bava demon style is just falling onto her face when the body's just getting lower and lower on her, man. It's some crazy shit happening in there. So basically what I told myself was it was time to do this episode, man, because it's time, with this movie originally being, Slumber Party Massacre, with this movie originally being released in 1982, the sequel was in 1987. The third one was in 1990. So I told myself, I said, yeah, it's time to do this, man. So we need to discuss what 80s slashers need reboots, remakes, whatever the hell you want to call it. It depends on what type of direction the creators want to go into. Now, before anybody loses their shit, I know how we feel about remakes at this point. I'm more optimistic than a bunch of other people because I know how both sides of the fence think, actually in the middle of the fence as well. I know how all sides think because I've been there. I've been that person that's like, yo, can we get originality back in Hollywood? Can we get the balls enough to do our own original ideas and, and stop remaking everything, especially when there's no room to improve on anything at all. There's no story left to tell that anybody questioned. They're just doing it to cash in on a big name. But I've also been in the middle of the road where it's like, okay, I'm gonna give it a chance. And then I've been on the other side of that fence where it's like, cool, go ahead and remake that 80s slasher movie that probably nobody remembers and they're only getting pissed off because they hear the word remake. Now, if it's something along the lines of, like I said, if you can advance the story a little bit, if you can maybe change some things around, maybe there's some things we didn't get to see that we would like to see in a remake of the 80s slasher movie, I'm cool with that, man. Like I said, I'm very optimistic towards it. But, when you get carbon copies or remakes that just try to do their own thing, but it doesn't work at all, I'm not saying no names, Prom Night or Psycho, as far as the two that I just mentioned, carbon copies and remakes that try to do something different and just doesn't work. Those two come to mind. Speaking of the ones that come to mind, man, before we jump into, because I think I've got 5 or 6. I've got 5. I lied. I got 5 picks here that I think, 80s horror slashers. One is kind of more so two are more so monster movies than anything. But these are the ones that I feel like should be rebooted. But before we jump into that, let's just do a quick rundown of the 80s slashers that already got remade. Now, what did we have, people? We had a whole slew of them in the 2000s, man. Once Texas Chainsaw Massacre hit, which doesn't really count in this category and Halloween doesn't count either because those originals came out in the 70s. Texas Chainsaw Massacre came out in 74 and Halloween came out in 78. So they don't count. But as soon as we got into 1980, we had Friday the 13th. Now, we had a remake of that came in 2009. It was pretty dope. You had Prom Night, which was not a great remake. It was actually trash. I did commentary for both Friday the 13th and Prom Night if y'all want to check that out. But My Bloody Valentine got remade. Child's Play got remade. Mother's Day, which is actually an underrated fucking remake if nobody has ever seen it. I'm pretty sure it's still on Tubi. It's got Rebecca De Mornay in there. It's got a bunch. I think it's actually directed by one of the guys that did Saw, Darren Lynn Bozeman, who actually did Spiral, I think. But you had, The Stepfather, garbage. Sorority Row, I love it, better than the original. April Fool's Day, I'm mad that Scout Taylor Compton even had to be a part of that movie. It's terrible. Silent Night, they took the Deadly Night off the end of it, but they did make a remake of that in 2013 or 2012, if I'm not mistaken. I actually like that one better than the original too. But safe to say we got more than our fair share of remakes from, slasher movies that came out in the 80s, and they vary. I'm sure there's a fan base for even the ones that I mentioned I don't like The Stepfather, which I thought was pretty dry, April Fool's Day, which I thought was terrible, Nightmare on Elm Street, which was such a disappointing remake, Prom Night was trash, My Bloody Valentine was garbage. I know there's a fan base out there for everything. There's not one movie that's universally hated by everyone in the world. I refuse to believe that because everywhere, somewhere, there's somebody that likes even the worst movies for the strangest reasons. I'm one of those people. Won't get into what movies we're talking about though, but excuse me, people. But the movie we will get into, which is my first pick of which ones that I want to see, get remade of the 80s slashers. My first pick is a movie. Also did commentary for this if y'all want to check it out. I'm gonna try not to plug everything, but y'all know I can't help it. But Slaughter High, people, which came out in 1986. Now I know a lot of cheesy cult fans out there know what I'm talking about, but there is a wide variety of people who have never seen this movie before, man. This is one of my favorite slasher movies when I was a kid, like a tiny kid growing up, and my grandmother would not want me to watch shit like this, man. I loved it. I loved the idea of the killer. I loved his mask. I loved it was centered around April Fool's Day jokes that were not jokes so much, but they were in the form of kills. And like I said, the movie came out in 1986. It was a good year. It was directed by a guy named Peter Litton and Mark Ezra, and those two guys actually wrote the script with George Dugdale. Really strange that, it had multiple directors, and I think it was a story where a couple people were attached to direct it at some point. I don't know if I'm getting this confused with Popcorn, which is a 90s slasher, so we won't be talking about that, but don't quote me on the director shit right there. I might be getting my wires crossed, but the movie stars Simon Scudamore and Carolyn Monroe. Rest in peace, shout out to Simon Scudamore. Sadly, man, after they finished production for this movie, before they got a chance to even release the film, Simon Scudamore killed himself. I think it was a drug overdose. And it was really sad that he didn't get to see what fans would come from this movie, man, whether they were cult fans, whether they were mainstream fans. So again, rest in peace, shout out to Simon Scudamore. Now, the plot for Slaughter High, for the uninitiated, man, it was pretty standard. It was, Marty Ranson, played by Simon Scudamore, was just the class nerd. He was the school nerd, he was a smart guy. He was like damn near a chemist in school and stuff like that. So he gets this awful prank played on him on April Fool's Day, which is actually his birthday. And they have him stripped down naked. Well, the girl, Carolyn Monroe, who actually plays her character named Carolyn, Carolyn has, she makes him think he's going to get some pussy in the shower. And she's like, take all your clothes off, Marty, and let me see that dick. She doesn't say that, but I'm like, she could have made it more convincing and got him way more excited. Because if you watch it, the acting does not hold up well in this movie. So that's one of the reasons it's due for a revamp. But, they play this prank on him and he's just ass naked. They tase him. They give him, a swirly, where they put his head in the toilet and shit. They fuck Marty up, man. It's really bad. And that's not even the last of what they do. That's the first prank they do. The second prank, they lace his joint with some type of firecracker or whatever. And then they turn the Bunsen burners up in the laboratory. And he ends up getting in this accident that just disfigures him. It burns half his face off. He's got a lot of his body is burned. And Marty ends up getting sent to a mental institution because of because of what he endured pretty much. So basically what happens is a couple years later, you have all the students who used to fuck with Marty. They go for their high school reunion only to find out that Marty has set up the entire high school reunion, set up traps for them inside of the entire abandoned school. He's got electrified gates on everything's chained up so they can't get the fuck out. And he murks these people off one by one. Now, it is a sucker punch ending. I will not spoil the ending for anybody that has not seen it. I've already spoiled enough, but it is a very strange ending, man, that actually would make me wonder what happened afterwards. Now, as far as the plot, I think the plot doesn't hold up. I feel like it holds up pretty well. One of the reasons I would like to see a remake of this is because it is centered around school bullying. And I know a lot of people are going to be like, we don't want that woke ass shit. We don't want people to actually have to think and have narratives and social commentary behind a movie. God forbid we actually have to think when we watch movies, right? I'm not one of those people. I don't care if a movie says something. I appreciate and respect a movie more if it's got a message behind it. I also respect the movie for just not giving a fuck. I just watched Piranha 3D the other day, and I'm like, this movie, there's no social commentary here whatsoever. They're not trying to say anything but, we've got blood, we've got gore, we've got CG piranhas, we've got tits and ass all over the place. Let's party. That's it. And I respect that. Shout out to Alejandro Aya for directing that movie. Now, the question is, why remake this movie? Why remake Slaughter High? My answer, or answers are, I feel like the character of Marty Ranson is just aching for a return, man. This is a guy who, for me personally, he was the stereotypical high school nerd. I understand that. However, Marty Ranson's got a creepy ass name. He's got kind of creepy ass moments before he even slips into insanity. He's got a creepy, identifiable mask. He's very methodical. And like I said, he's smart with his traps. So I feel like Marty Ranson could possibly be a household name if they wanted to do a remake of this movie. I also like the high school setting. We don't really get too many slasher movies in high school settings, at least not good ones. The first one that came to mind, and it's not even a slasher movie, is The Faculty. I've even tried to write slasher movies that take place in high schools, and it's not really easy to do at all. You've got to think of what's keeping these kids in here. Why can't they just jump out the window? Why can't they go through the emergency exit? Why can't they go through a fire escape? Why can't they go through a trap door? You know what I'm saying? It's a whole bunch of the variables you have to add, you have to factor in to make sure that these characters, like, it's realistic. It's a realistic situation. But I feel like a high school setting is definitely decent. It's claustrophobic in a way, depending on how big you make the school. But I feel like it could be creepy, because one of the things about that original Slaughter High movie is the majority of the scenes when Marty starts to kick shit in motion, a lot of the scenes in the hallway aren't really well lit. So I like those moments, man. Especially, like, there's a couple scenes where he's chasing Carol and she's like the final girl at the end of the movie. And it's a long ass chase sequence of him going after her with this javelin. And a lot of those scenes are just lit really darkly. And you see Marty behind her, and the jingles, the bells on his jester mask are going off, and then he runs off and she thinks the coast is clear. It's a lot of good, dark lighting in that movie. I also feel like the bullying and retaliation theme, man, it could set a lot of shit on its ear. People could possibly watch this movie and be like, yo, I'm sorry for bullying that person I bullied in school 20 years ago. Let me go find that motherfucker on Facebook and apologize and set up a luncheon so I can apologize personally, because I don't want to get murdered. It'll make you think twice, man. Like, it's like Saw makes you think twice about doing certain things. And it's like, oh my God, like, Jigsaw had a guy in a trap. Well, not Jigsaw, it was Hoffman, but he's like, Hoffman had a guy in a trap because he smoked cigarettes. And it's like, well, if you don't care about your life, then you don't care about your lungs. Let the game begin. And it's like, damn, like, all because he was smoking cigarettes? Like, what the fuck is going on? I feel like the April Fool's theme is also a decent thing that could come into play, because we don't have too many movies like that. Like I said, we had a remake that was garbage. You had the original, which was decent. And you had this one. I can't remember too many other April Fool's Day themed movies. I'm pretty sure somebody out there will correct me if I'm wrong. But, creative kills, of course, will be one thing. And I feel like that lacks a lot in a lot of A lot of slasher remakes, man, they just don't really, a lot of times they don't put a lot of thought into the kills. They kind of just happen. And I feel like that was one of the things that was really showcased very well in the 80s was practical effects and, practical effects and just creative ways to kill people. As morbid as the shit sounds. I also, lastly, before we move on to number 2, I feel like this would be a good tribute to Simon Scudamore. Now, I did hear that his sister has a Facebook page, with a bunch of Slaughter High paraphernalia and posts, and his sister dedicated it in his memory. I don't know how true that is because I looked for it, couldn't find it. There's a bunch of Simon Scudamore pages on Facebook. I'm not looking through all that shit. But I feel like it would be good to have a proper tribute to the guy because I feel like he's just forgotten, man. And he is a part of horror history if you think about it, because like I said, there's a cult fan base for this movie, man. And even if it's not a cult fan base, there are fans of this film everywhere. You know what I'm saying? As much as people don't talk about it, and as much as they didn't talk about it when the movie came out, but it would be good to see. Excuse me. It'd be good to see Marty, come back for one last hoorah at what was it, Doddsville High School? I think it was called. Yeah, I think it was called Doddsville High School. But anyway, moving on, people, to number 2 of the 80s slashers that I think should be remade. I think this is one that I mentioned where I said it's more of a monster movie and not so much a slasher, which it is. And I know people will disagree with me on that, but whatever. Hell Night, which came out in 1981. It was directed by Tom DeSimone. It was written by Randy Feldman. Hell Night stars Linda Blair from The Exorcist. I don't know how many people have seen that movie. I'm joking, people, but I know, on a side note, I know some of y'all probably pissed off that David Gordon Green's doing a new trilogy for that. That is another episode for another time, people. Trust me, we'll get there. But it stars Linda Blair from The Exorcist and Peter Barton from Friday the 13th, the final chapter. And the plot basically for Hell Night is you've got 4 pledges for Alpha Sigma Rho. And, what they have to do in order to join this fraternity is they have to spend a night in Garth Manor. Now, Garth Manor is the property of a guy named Raymond Garth. Him and his wife just kept setting out to have child after child after child. They couldn't have the perfect child. Every time they had one, something was wrong with them. They were deformed, or one was blind and one was deaf. They did not have the luck of the Irish whatsoever. So what happens is the shit drove Raymond Garth just so insane that he murdered his entire family and then hung himself. But the thing is, there's one relative, and I think it was his oldest son, Andrew, who was kind of like a mongoloid type of Jason character, just without the weaponry, pretty much. He was the only one that did not get killed, and he disappeared. Now, the thing is, not only is Andrew Garth running around Garth fucking Manor on Halloween night, but so is his sister. There's not one killer. There's 2 killers in this movie running the fuck around this manor in hedge mazes, in underground tunnels underneath the house. They're running around in hallways. They're creeping around in bedrooms and bathrooms and shit, watching people have sex. There's a whole bunch of shit going on, but these are 2 fucking monsters hunting these pledges down, man. It is a scary fucking concept, man. So basically, the pledges, they have to survive the night. And it goes well for some, not so well for others. But I feel like the plot holds up really decent. As simple as it is, I feel like it's a scary concept. All we got to do is stay here Halloween night. Oh shit! Wait, there's 2 siblings that are bloodthirsty and need to get back to work apparently because they got fresh blood, up inside of their crib. That's the other thing. There's so many passageways in this movie and on this property that they don't know where these motherfuckers are going to pop out from. At one point, Andrew Garth pops up out the floor and the rug is like over top of him and they can't even see him in the background. And so they turn around and stab him. He falls back into the floor and he's underground in these tunnels. I think the plot holds up pretty well. It's like a spook house monster movie / slasher movie at times. Now, question remains. Why remake this? Why remake Hell Night? Concept holds up pretty well, right? Wrong. Well, right. But I'm saying Garth Manor and the Garth family backstory, that shit is underrated gold. Now, one thing you can do is introduce a monster, or you can introduce a slasher. And, you know, a lot of people love when you don't give them any backstory, any context. That's fine. That's why people loved Halloween so much, is because we didn't know shit about Michael Myers. We knew that he killed his sister when he was 6 years old. He broke out of an institution. He kills at will. That's all the fuck it is. That's all we knew about Michael Myers. And it's what intrigued people. It was a lot of the mystique behind that character that drove him to be one of the scariest slashers of all time. But I feel like what they created with the backstory of each person, the mother, you know, the father, the 3 kids, I don't remember if it was 3 or 4 kids, and how they were killed. You know, even though the guy who's, I think his name is Peter Scott and Denise are the ones that are putting the pledges in his house, but they're also the ones playing the prank. And Peter, as he's saying the story, it is very morbid. He's saying it in a way where, you know, he's joking and he's trying to scare people. The motherfucker might as well have like a flashlight under his chin while he's at a campfire trying to scare the pledges, because he's like, and then he hung himself, and then the cops showed up. But then, like, he's just like, he got fired from Are You Afraid of the Dark? So he started telling, you know, scary stories to pledges and shit to try to, you know, make them uneasy. But I feel like it's a great backstory rather. And I feel like just the setting overall, it's almost like a haunted castle with these 2 fuckers just running around killing people. Speaking of which, the idea of 2 deformed slashers / monsters, that's crying for a return, because I feel like we get standardized slashers, whether they're human and it's a, you know, Scooby-Doo unmasking type of thing at the end, whether it's something like Michael Myers where it's one person, or Jason, or Freddy Krueger who's like a demon or something like that. But we don't get many monsters with like humanoid monsters with backstories. This is like if Jason had a sister, you know, a sister that kind of looked like a dude, because the sister is like, she looks like a man. She looked like a man in this movie Hell Night. And, you know, she's got a big ass beard and she looks like Tarzan. Like if Tarzan was in a cave, or like if Encino Man got remade by Rob Zombie, that's what the fuck she looks like pretty much. You know, like I said, I like the spook house vibes of it. I love that it's centered around Halloween. I feel like all the movies that come out based on Halloween do not have to be, you know, they do not have to have Michael Myers in them. I feel like we need to break free of thinking that every Halloween movie has to have something to do with Michael Myers. That's not the case. That is his holiday. He owns it. But I love when people take liberties. Like I think Trick or Treat was a great example of that, even though it's not a slasher movie. It's kind of like a monster anthology, zombie. It's a whole bunch of shit. That's the best thing about an anthology. Excuse me, but goddamn, excuse me, people. I think I do think Hell Night would be one of the slasher remakes on this list that could genuinely be scary. They could set out to take this as seriously as they possibly could, because I feel like they did that with the original movie. There are very few moments when shit starts hitting the fan. There are very few moments where it's like, okay, we're going to just be cheesy B-movie fun. No, there's characters making smart decisions. There's a character who actually escapes. He makes it over the spiked fence, and he goes for help, you know, and he actually comes back to his friends, you know, to save them, to rescue them with a big ass shotgun in his hand. Depends on how long we've been friends. I don't know if that could have been me, but Vince Van Patten, big shout out to him, because he's one of the best characters in that movie, man. And another thing, good characters you had in that movie. I feel like you could definitely apply that to a remake, whereas though we cheer for characters like Seth, played by, you know, I just mentioned Vince Van Patten. He leaves. People don't think he's coming back, but he goes to tell the police. The police don't believe him. He steals guns and shit. He steals a car. He goes back to Garth Manor to get his friends. I feel like that would be a character that people would root for days and days to come, man. And with that being said, let's move on, because these are characters I feel like if you remake this movie, you don't want to root for these fuckers at all. And my number 3 pick for a slasher movie I think should have a remake is The Burning. Now I know this is going to trigger a lot of people as fans, because not only are they fans of Cropsy, the slasher in the movie, excuse me, but they're fans of what Tom Savini did with those makeup effects. And those are, Tom Savini did the damn thing, man. He was fresh off of Friday 13th in 1980, jumped onto this in 81. I think he did The Prowler after that. He did, a Friday 13th, The Final Chapter a couple years later. Tom Savini was at his peak, man. Big shout out to him. But The Burning was directed by Tony Mealy, and it was actually written by Bob Weinstein and Peter Lawrence. I don't know who Peter Lawrence is, but when I say that name Weinstein, you guys already be like, oh, well, that him? Now listen. Harvey was the creep, if I'm not mistaken. So Bob, I don't know too much about you, but your brother needs help. And he needs his fucking ass whooped. And that motherfucker needs lots and lots of jail time. Or at least women need compensation for what you did. But we're not going to talk about that. We're not going to talk about that. What we will talk about is this cast of familiars, yo. This movie, for this to be an 80s slasher movie, a cheesy B-80s slasher, I don't know how well it did box office wise. I know it's got a bigger fan base than something like Hell Night or Slaughter High. But you've got a young Jason Alexander, a young Holly Hunter, and a young Fisher Stevens in this movie. And I'm like, wow, that is very rare to see. Even though you did have, you had George Clooney in Return to Horror High. You had, I think Vanna White was in one of these damn 80s slasher movies. Leslie Nielsen in Prom Night. This wasn't out of the ordinary, but I thought it was funny that all of them who would go on to have really great careers in the 90s and so on and so forth, I found it funny that they were all cast in this movie as younger kids. But the plot pretty much is Cropsy is the caretaker at the camp. I don't know if it's Camp Anawana, if it's Lake Forest Green, if they, tried to cover up the Camp Crystal Lake sign. I can't remember the name. I don't watch The Burning a whole lot, but when I do watch it, it's just like, it does leave an impact on me as far as the kills and shit and the tone goes. But Cropsy's the caretaker at this camp, and the kids don't really fancy Cropsy very much. So what they do is one night they pull a little harmless prank on him. They put like a skull, like I think it's a live skull with like maggots and worms pouring out the eyes and the mouth. It's like a skull candle or some shit. So what happens is Cropsy wakes up and he freaks the fuck out, as one should. That is a realistic reaction. But what he does is he knocks the candle over and it sets his bed ablaze. I don't know if it's his bed or his dresser, whatever it is, that motherfucker catches on fire. So I don't know if he had on flammable flannels, whatever the case was, but Cropsy gets his ass set on fire. He runs out into the woods. I think he jumps into the water. Cropsy does survive. For anybody worried about, your boy out there, Cropsy does survive. But what does he do? He gets himself some threads, some black threads, a costume. He gets himself a pair of garden shears, and he starts wrecking shop, man. And I feel like this plot, a lot of the times it would not hold up, because Friday the 13th, you figure Friday the 13th came out in 1980, literally 1980. So anything that came after that was centered around a camp, The Burning, Sleepaway Camp, whatever the case may be, you're going to think about Friday the 13th automatically. So the plot, it's very hard to say if it holds up or not. Like I said, Friday the 13th is too big of a name. So people are just like, oh, well, what is this, a remake of The Burning? Oh, this is a Friday the 13th ripoff, right? That's exactly what a lot of people are going to think. So I feel like it's like a middle of the road thing with how it holds up, because it was so many similar imitations, whether the killer looked different or not. Just that setting and that premise alone of kids getting murdered at summer camp is just... It's been done before, man. And I'm not saying that to down the movie, because a lot of these premises have been done before. It's one of the things that made the 80s interesting. It's like, how can they keep recycling the same type of storyline? How would they do the killer? How would they do the effects? Who would they cast, type of thing? It was always interesting to see, what they would do next. So, the question basically, why remake The Burning? If this was Tom Savini's, some of his best work, Cropsy was just such a vicious killer. It was Take No Prisoners. Why would you remake such a movie? But I feel like one of the main reasons is, and this is me personally, I feel like this would be one of the more standout slasher remakes that's just visceral and gory. Because like I said, I'll say it again, this was a movie that seemed to take no prisoners. They're killing adults. They're killing hookers. I don't know if that chick is a hooker in the beginning. That Cropsy, I think Cropsy stabs her in the stomach with scissors because she invites him up to her apartment to fuck him or whatever the hell's going on. It's a very strange movie in some parts. But if they're killing hookers, they're killing adults. If they're killing adults, they're killing kids. There's a scene where Fisher Stevens and them, they're on this raft, and Cropsy jumps the fuck up out of nowhere like the Messiah with the, it's the most classic shot of the entire movie with Cropsy just, the silhouette of him in the, like with those shears in the air. He fucks those kids up. He cuts one kid's fingers off. He stabs one kid in the neck. He, slices this girl across her head and just lets her bleed out. I'm sorry, Cropsy, excuse me, people. Cropsy gets busy in this movie, man. And when I say visceral and gory, like, listen, I feel like you wouldn't go into a remake of The Burning expecting Who's going to survive? Because I would want it to be to that point where it's like, yo, I don't think any of these motherfuckers are going to make it out alive, because Cropsy seems to be very upset, man. He is pissed off right now. So don't be surprised if this is like a, nobody makes it out alive type of ending type of movie. And that would definitely stand out. It would leave people in shock. Like, oh my God, like, you don't want this to be, this doesn't have to be like a, like a morality tale or anything like that. Another reason I would remake this is because you could go, and luckily not fumble it, you could go the route of, the Nightmare on Elm Street remake, where we were questioning, okay, was Freddy Krueger innocent? Was he wrongfully accused and unjustifiably murdered by these townspeople? Was he an innocent guy, or was he really a pedophile fucking around with these kids? And it wasn't until later on in the third act of the movie you found out, okay, he was a pedophile, and the parents were very much justified in, taking street action, taking action into their own hands. So I feel like that's another thing you could apply to the Cropsy character, because it's like, well, what did he do to these kids? Was it that bad that they had to, play a prank that was that crazy on him? Or was he just a fucking asshole? It'll leave something to the imagination, and people be like, oh, well, I'm not going to say they would say all, because I wouldn't want them to sympathize too much, but it's good to play those mind tricks with people at some point. I also feel like, the asshole kids. There aren't many kids, I feel like, other than the sleepaway camp kids. And I don't know if it's just a summer camp setting and these motherfuckers just get cabin fever to the point where they're just assholes and just bitches towards one another. I don't like these characters. There's not a single character I remember in The Burning, because like I said, I don't watch it often, but when I do watch it, it leaves an impact on me. And every time I watch it, I'm like, there isn't a single fucking character I care about or want to see survive in this movie, because they're all dicks. From what I remember, they're all assholes. They're asshole kids. And I feel like, it'll be good to take the focus off of things like Stranger Things and It Chapter 1 and Chapter 2 and this new Ghostbusters, where we're just rooting for these kids to overcome the evil. It's like, nah, let's get back to rooting for slashers in cases like this. Now, I'm not saying the kids deserve to die, or at least we might not know that, depending on how they would handle a remake, if Cropsy's justified or not or whatever. But yeah, man, fuck them kids. And the summer camp setting, I feel like with what Fear Street did with the 1978, I think it was part 2, Fear Street 2, 1978. What they did with that camp setting and that slasher and how amazingly done it was, oh my God, the sky is the limit if you want to set a fucking remake at camp, man. I feel like Fear Street Part 2 paved the way for you motherfuckers to never get another camp slasher movie wrong again. It was too good. And for it to be a period piece, again, it was too damn good. So, moving on, because like I said, I don't want this to be an hour-long episode. Number 4, we're gonna go back a year to 1980 with Terror Train. I almost said Training Day. I don't even have my glasses on, people, so you already know what to blame that on. Now, Terror Train was directed by Roger Spottiswoode. It's a very interesting fucking name, but it was written by T.Y. Drake. Jamie Lee Curtis is in it. David Copperfield's in it, who I always forget he's in that movie. But Terror Train, the plot basically for Terror Train, I actually just watched this as of recently, probably like 2 weeks ago or so. And it's always an interesting thing to go back on. Because, Jamie Lee Curtis, for her to come back to this in, in 1980s, she had Halloween in 78. She had The Fog, I think, prior to this. Then she had this movie, and then she had Prom Night. Like, goddamn, Jamie Lee Curtis was on top of her, slasher movie game back then. But the plot for this movie, you've got this weird kid, Kenny Hampson, Jamie Lee Curtis and Copperfield and them. They play a prank on Kenny Hampson where they put a corpse, literally a cadaver, inside of this fucking bed. And Jamie Lee Curtis is acting like it's her just based on her voice. And she's like, kiss me, Kenny. Kiss me, Kenny. And Kenny's, he's in his tighty whities and his beater. And he sees that this is a dead body. And when he sees the dead body, he starts screaming. And he's like a fucking crazed ballerina while he's spinning around in the drapes and shit that are draped on the, along the bed frame and shit. And he's fucked up, man. He's fucked up. So what you have is these fraternity, sorority members going on this train ride. It's a big party on the train. And Kenny Hampson, you don't know who the killer is. It's a whodunit, so I'm sorry, people. Spoiler alert. But Kenny Hampson pretty much is, he's on the train. But one of the more interesting things about this movie is that Kenny Hampson is not just picking one look. He's showing his versatility in this movie, Terror Train, because he's got not one, not two, but three, count them, three costumes throughout the entire movie that he's murdering people in. And he also dresses up as an alter ego in the movie, which I would definitely not spoil that. That's something y'all got to see for yourselves, because the shock factor is just very awkward. It's very strange. And a lot of people really didn't see it coming, because I know I didn't. I damn sure didn't see it coming. So, with as creepy as this movie can get, with one mask and costume in particular, the question is, why remake this? Why remake Terror Train? Why remake a Jamie Lee Curtis classic 80s slasher? And the answer, one of the answers is pretty simple for me: the train setting. I love the train setting, man. There is a movie, I think people thought that there was a remake loosely based off of this film, and it was called Train. It had Thora Birch on it, and they were like a wrestling team or a track team or some shit in high school, and they catch this train, and there's these foreigners on there who are torturing them and murdering them throughout. I haven't seen it. I've just seen the trailer for it, and I remember wanting to see it because I thought it was a remake, and it's not. But I love the train setting. Even more claustrophobic than any setting I've mentioned, man. The school especially, because it's just these tight corridors which can make for so many just bumbling, falling over everything, trying to find your way chase sequences, man. I think Jamie Lee Curtis has one of the best chase sequences towards the end of the movie. It's not really crazy, but just the idea of her running through this hallway and running to dead ends and places she doesn't recognize on this train, I think it'll make for a really good creepy setting. And plus, it's not every day that you get a slasher movie set on a train. Not today, anyway. You get things like the Murder on the Orient Express, or even the fucking Polar Express. I don't know, but we don't get a lot of horror movies, at least to my knowledge. If anybody knows, please point them out to me. But yeah, the train setting is one. I feel like the college kids is another aspect that could be, upgraded on, because these kids none of them were great in particular. I did like David Copperfield's character, but he was a little responsible for what was going on. Jamie Lee Curtis' character is great in everything, but everybody's kind of disposable. But the idea of them being fraternity kids and one gets drunk and the other one likes to have sex is very cliche, but I feel like you could give these characters personality, especially if you have to spend time with them enclosed in these rooms, in these corridors, in the I don't know if the train is called a cockpit where the conductor's at, or is that just airplanes? I have no fucking idea, people. I don't ride terror trains every day, so don't judge me on my vocabulary or lack thereof. But another thing that could hold up really, really well, I already mentioned the claustrophobia. That was actually my last point, and I fucked it up. But lastly is 3 different looks for the killer. We don't have that. First movie that just came to mind. I know a lot of people hate Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. We legit had 3 different looks for Michael Myers in that movie. You had the nightmare mask, which had the bullet wound on the head. I think it was badass. They should have kept that, especially when he was in the rain and the mask got wet. That was a fucking fire look for Michael Myers that I have never seen before. And you have unmasked Michael Myers, which a lot of people had a problem with. I don't even argue that now at all. And you had, Grim Reaper hoodie Michael Myers. So that was actually pretty dope. But to have a killer, what was the first? I think the first costume he stole from somebody after he killed them was it was like a creature from the Black Lagoon type of mask, where he was like some type of lizard. And that's pretty fucking silly. It's stupid. It's a stupid mask. I don't like the way it looks. I don't like the costume. Maybe they can upgrade it to something. I don't know. If you give him like the Abe Sapien costume from Hellboy, that'll be definitely creepy as shit. But the second outfit he had on was it was like one of those funny faces, the big nose, the mustache, the glasses. It was like a costume of a train conductor, but it was creepy as shit. Now the last one, it was just an old man mask, and he's got like this long, black robe on, and he's running chasing Jamie Lee Curtis with, I don't know if he's got a javelin like Marty Ranson does in Slaughter High. But that's the scene where he gets stabbed in the cheek through the mask. And, for 3 different costumes, that's something original that they can bring back. That's something Terror Train did. I don't recall a lot of other movies, if not any movies, doing that at the time, or even doing that in modern times. I don't know. Y'all can, somebody send me a message and be like, you're wrong. This movie did 18 different costumes. You're wrong. Somebody will correct me if I'm wrong. They usually do. Sometimes when they tune into it. And, that's what you guys tune in for, to prove me wrong or to hear me just talk shit. But while we get to the last one, people, this is one I don't watch very often, but I remember this movie kind of, sort of, almost maybe creeping me out when I was a child, because I think it used to come on TNT a lot. Was it TNT? Yep, it was TNT. It used to come on TNT or USA a lot. And it wasn't in the daytime. It was always at nighttime. So I was always forced to go to sleep afterwards with this son of a bitch on my brain, because this is another one, probably the second of the two I'm gonna mention throughout this one, because this is the last on the list. This is a monster movie more than anything, to me personally, because it's not really a slasher. This is a creature that has a mask on that's murdering people inside of the titular Funhouse, people. This came out in 1981 also. The Funhouse was directed by Tobe Hooper. It was written by Larry Block. Now, of course, we know Tobe Hooper. It was funny for him to come back to, to his roots, because, in 74, he did the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I don't know if he did Poltergeist before this in 80 or if he did it the same year. I'm not sure. But yeah, Tobe Hooper came back, and Elizabeth Berridge and Cooper Huckabee is up in this joint. And I don't even remember who the fuck those characters are, because again, the Funhouse was another one of those movies where it's like, if anything, I want the main girl to make it out, but these other characters, if y'all get split in half or get your shoulder split or get choked up or get stabbed, it's like, whatever. It is what it is. Now, the plot. 4 kids, if I'm not mistaken, 2 couples, they go to this funhouse, this carnival in town, and they end up going inside of this funhouse. And if I'm not mistaken, they get trapped in there. There's a guy who runs the whole funhouse or whatever, and he has like basically this pet monster who's walking around in a Frankenstein costume. But once that fucking mask comes on, or comes off rather, his face is like, he's got like a mandible looking mouth almost. And he's got like a split in the middle of his head. I can't even describe it. He's got like wild, crazy hair that looks white. From what I remember, his hair looks like fucking E.G. Marshall from the Creepshow movie, where they're, that last segment, they're creeping up on you. He had the receding hairline and the fucking, and the hair on the sides. He looks crazy as fuck, man. So he's not a slasher. He is a monster. He is fit for a carnival and a funhouse. So I can understand why they did that as opposed to going with the, with the average slasher. And that's basically what it is, man. It's a really simple premise, and they have to find their way out, man. And it it results in the final girl being the one to make it out, rightfully so. I think she does make it out, because by morning her friends are dead. I don't remember how the Frankenstein masked monster dies, but she does make it out of there, I think. Listen, obviously it's time for me to go back and watch it, because I don't want to give people a lot of misinformation and just be completely wrong about it. So while we wrap this up, people, we still got to ask the question before we head up out of here, is why remake this? Why remake the Funhouse? If Tobe Hooper, the late great, rest in peace, shout out to one of the GOATs, if he gave us, he said, I gave y'all Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Poltergeist. Here's Funhouse, man. I give y'all a monster movie too. Give you a slasher, give you a supernatural, warm-hearted family movie in the form of Poltergeist, and I'll give y'all this. Why remake this movie, man? It's simple for me. This first part is most certainly simple for me. Why remake the Funhouse? You know why? Because, god damn it. And this is frustrating as shit to talk about, people, because I was looking forward to this movie I'm about to mention and make a comparison with. Why remake this movie? Because Hellfest had it in the bag, and they fucked it up. Hellfest had it. They had it all in the bag. Bag, signed, sealed, delivered, zipped up, tied up, had a fucking Brink security lock box on it and everything. They had everything secured. Spectacle, serial killer, fodder for the killer. I almost said characters, but some of them are pretty bland. I do like Bex Taylor Claus in Hellfest, but Hellfest is a movie that could have been this generation's The Funhouse from 1981, and they fumbled it. I feel like it was such a missed opportunity, man, that makes people want to go back on movies like, all right, man, which one of these movies took place at amusement park Funhouse again? Who's getting killed in there? Tobe Hooper, John? 80? Okay, cool. We'll go back to that, because this Hellfest shit just ain't working. You got Tony Todd getting people all gassed up. The killer had a cool mask. Fuck that. Let's go back to the Funhouse. I'm not going to say take anything from Hellfest, but I'm going to just say learn. It's plenty of homework, plenty of do's and don'ts to learn from that film in general. And I feel like an amusement park / Funhouse is the perfect setting, man. You've got plenty of gags, plenty of jokes, plenty of scares that you can actually earn. I feel like this is one of those movies Excuse me, people. My chest is like really tight today because the weather's changing up. It's getting a little more brisk. So my my lungs get tighter. I have to use my inhaler more. I know I've been like coughing and shit throughout this episode. My apologies. But to wrap this up pretty much, because we are damn near 50 minutes into this shit. I always go off topic and I get long-winded, even with a tight chest, like I just said. But the setting's perfect, man. This is a movie where I feel like the jump scares, they can be earned, but the genuine jump scare should be earned. But I feel like you have clause in the contract to do as many jump scares as you want, because that's what a fun house is. That's one of the reasons I don't fuck with fun houses. I used to go into those things a lot when I was a little kid, and I remember getting chased out by a guy with a big ass Children of the Corn scythe, whatever that shit is called, the big ass harvest knife, and he had a black robe on, and you could only see the bottom of his face, and he chased me, my brother, and my sister the fuck out of the fun house. And I don't do those things because I feel like if I was to step into those as an adult, or when I was invited in my younger years, like my 20s, somebody's getting punched in the face or kicked in the stomach, like that. That's it. And, fun house over. I'm going home. I didn't even get my bang for my buck ticket wise because I'm fucking up everybody's night because Rome wants to go home, or I'm gonna just sit in the car till everybody's ready. That's what's gonna happen. But I feel like it's the perfect setting, man, and the perfect spectacle all together. You can have so much fun with just creating things that jump out at people, or just creating, like I said, on-set gags in the background, in the foreground, whatever the case may be. It's time to let loose and have fun with a movie like The Fun House. You should take full advantage of the title and just the concept overall. Also feel like I said, this is a monster movie as opposed to a standard slasher movie. And, who knows? This could, I know a lot of people out there, they think, well, what the fuck would you do with a Fun House 2? Who wants that? And it's like, you never know, man. These people, their story they can incorporate that could expand. And who's to say that this couldn't get a sequel, whereas though the old one couldn't? I don't know. Maybe it could be a direct sequel. Who knows, man? Basically, people, what I'm trying to say, with these 5 picks that I had, with The Funhouse, with Terror Train, with The Burning, with Slaughter High, with Hell Night, these are movies that it's all subjective. People are going to be like, well, there's nothing to really improve on with this movie. But on the other hand, where I disagree is I feel like you should really only remake old movies, whether it's the 60s, 70s, 80s. If you want to go on the cusp of the 90s, the early 90s, I'd say tread carefully. I feel like as far as the 90s goes, something like Dr. Giggles could use a remake for sure. Excuse me, but I feel like if you're going to remake a movie, these movies in particular, what you have to do is ask yourself first and foremost, is there any story left to tell? What stone was left unturned? What can we improve on that the first one didn't do that we might have wanted to see, that the fans might have wanted to see? It's one of the reasons why I've wanted to, for the life of me and for the longest time, write my own script for a modernization of Night of the Living Dead, because there's so many things in that original movie, be it whether it's a perfect film or not. It's my favorite movie of all time. There are so many things in that movie I wish I could have seen that are talked about in monologues, that are talked about amongst other characters. There's just things that I'm curious to see about. It's probably because my brain goes all over the place with ideas, even where stories have book endings. You know what I'm saying? I'm still making up excuses for Return of the Living Dead 3 of how Kurt and Julie got the fuck out of an incinerator. No, that's a Romeo and Juliet tragic book ending. There's no more story left to tell, even though there was going to be a sequel. It's no story left, but you got crazy motherfuckers like me who come up with crazy concepts and ideas for crazy podcast episodes like this one. I feel like if there's something to improve on, if there's more to tell, like I said, there's grounds for a remake, man. And I feel like I said, man, I said this early on, there's a lot of people who don't even remember these movies, but they'll automatically hear the word remake and it's like, oh my God, we're so tired of the remakes and all the bullshit. But it's like, if you've never seen the original movie, then maybe give the remake a chance, or maybe go back on the movie and see how cheesy it may be or how well it holds up. One or the other. You're going to feel some type of way, but if you haven't seen the movie, don't shit on a remake of it. I'm trying to get more and more optimistic just about film in general, man. And one of the, a part of my optimism is what inspired this episode. Like I said, people, to bring things full circle before we close out, I was 100% against just the poster and the idea of Slumber Party Massacre alone. And I haven't even seen the full movie yet. So when I saw the full movie, I'm like, damn, there's really no reason for them to really, I get why they would want to, but this one's cool. This is a slasher movie not a lot of people have even seen, and it's decent for me. It delivered for the most part. And, I saw that trailer yesterday, man. And like I said, man, my apologies, people, for not getting that reaction out to y'all. I really owed y'all that reaction, because if I like y'all to listen to anything during the trailer reactions, it's listening to me put my foot in my mouth and eat my words when I'm 100% against some shit and the trailer ends up being decent. I did that with Spiral. I did that with the Suicide Squad. I did that with the Batman. I've done it more times than a few on this podcast, man. So that's definitely something that I'm going to try to refrain from doing, man. If I'm on the fence about a movie or 100%, 200% against it, I still want to get these trailer reactions out to y'all. Because like I said, that's what stemmed from me doing this episode right here, was me trying to be optimistic and give things a fair shot. Because I feel like if I don't, I'll miss out on a lot of potentially great things, whether it be remakes, whether it be sequels, I'm excited for a lot of the sequels and the remakes to come, man. And if I didn't cover the movies that you guys would have rather me talked about for the idea of remakes, please go on upcominghorrormovies.com, right? I said it like I fucking work there or something, but go to upcominghorrormovies.com and go in the remakes and prequels section. There's a shit ton that are still in development, people. I'm talking Alice, Sweet Alice. I'm talking, I don't remember. That's why the fuck I just gave y'all the link. Upcominghorrormovies.com. Y'all can check that out, because that's where I see a lot of this stuff from, and I read a lot about this stuff, and like, is it in development hell, or is it being made or whatever? Because I'm curious to see what they're going to do with certain remakes. Arachnophobia, the Tommy Knockers, and stuff like that. There's so many remakes coming that people just up and forgot about. I'm pretty sure it'll piss a lot of people off. More so something like Arachnophobia, but the Tommy Knockers definitely do. As good as that cast is, the made-for-TV movie is very cheap, and the acting doesn't always hold up, even with a loaded cast like that. Jimmy Smits and Robert Carradine and shit like that. But that's something that could go for a reboot, man, along with the ones I mentioned, man. So hopefully y'all enjoyed, and I'm so sorry I almost kept y'all and kidnapped y'all ears for almost an hour, man. But I tried to make it worth it, tried to make it interesting, tried to make it come full circle, as I always do. And y'all already know what to do, man. And if y'all don't, god damn it, y'all can follow the podcast on Anchor, Spotify, iTunes, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Overcast, Pocket Cast, Breaker, Radio Public, Podbean, and Podcast Addict. Shout out to Anchor. Follow me on Facebook and Instagram, Romero Tudor. Shout out to the Facebook movie group, The Cinemaniacs. And shout out to the Facebook movie group, The Horror Virus. And last but not least, certainly not least, shout out to the Tudor reviewers, the listeners, the lovers, the supporters out there. Oh, people. This morning, man, I think I spoke it into existence last week. I don't remember if it was my commentary for Clueless or the one I did before that, talking about Mortal Kombat, or if it was my commentary for Mikey, because I hadn't recorded since I think last week. I want to say like last Friday or so. I really can't. People don't quote me on none of this stuff. But yeah, man, it's been a couple days, but I actually spoke this into existence one of my last episodes, and I said if not by the weekend, then by this week we would hit the 9K. And lo and behold, goddamn it, y'all know my sleeping habits suck. So I woke up at like 2 a.m. First thing I did was check the numbers for the podcast. We hit the 9K mark, you crazy, loving, supporting, respectful mofos, man. I appreciate you guys so fucking much, man. So much love and respect to y'all, and a big thank you. Like, it's every time we hit a milestone with this podcast, it just makes me even more humble, way more appreciative, and it just motivates me way more to never take my foot off the gas as far as the podcasting goes overall. Because I say this a lot, man. I have days where, life happens, the parenting shit happens, just hardships happen throughout like life in general, man. I can't pick and choose what's going to happen every day, regardless of what people say. Bad shit does come my way, man, and I will shut down and I have these moments. But one thing I can always come back to is you guys' support. I can, let's blow some steam off in the form of a commentary where I'm goofing off. You guys will tune into it. Like I said, it had been a couple days since I dropped a episode altogether, and here you guys are still tuning the fuck into to the older episodes. You know, the more recent ones and the older episodes, man. And it's insane, yo, that I don't even have to drop episodes sometimes for you guys to still support and still hold me down, man, and still uplift me, man. So I'm just so grateful for y'all as a listening audience, man. Y'all make me want to really do this shit for the rest of my life. Like, if I could be in the nursing home at like 80 years old, God willing, I would be doing an audio podcast. Like, I would be having the Tudor Reviews podcast. I'd be like on episode 1 billion out this bitch. And I would do it just for y'all, man. That is how much I fucks with y'all, man. So again, big thank you to all the listeners out there for getting us to the 9K. Y'all already know we shooting for the 10K. That's a given. So the 10K is, you know, that double digits K make me want to put my foot on the gas even more, break the gas pedal off, rip the steering wheel off, and hit the NOS tank at the same time. Like, all right, let's just do this shit. Let's do this dance. But yeah, man, definitely got mad love for you guys, man. And you guys already know the love and support that y'all show me. I show it back to y'all tenfold and then some. So, with that being said, people, yours truly, Romero Tudor. Another episode of Tudor Reviews in the can. I'll check y'all on the next one.